This one may come as rather a surprise to a lot of you people who are thinking, oh, I'm probably going to vote Leave. You are not voting to kick anyone out of the UK or block access to anyone. Neither are you voting to stop recruiting valuable European workers into things like the NHS. Like my other point about passports for travel, the UK is already outside of the Schengen zone, and so migrant workers must enter the UK with a valid passport before and after June 23rd. That will not change. Right. We will still not be part of the Schengen zone, and anybody, migrant workers, holiday makers, anybody passing through the UK border, coming into the country, will require a valid passport after June the 23rd. That will not change. This is true. I'm not going to debate that for a moment. However, I'm doing this sort of in reverse. Not voting to stop recruiting valuable European workers. Yes, but, and this person raises this point again later on, I think. They talk about this, we're not blocking access, we're not doing anything to block anything, but then we're kind of blocking things. But we probably won't, but we might, but we're not, but we will. It's giving a very mixed message. So why does it say recruiting valuable European workers into things like the NHS? Again, I wish the NHS would be left out of this. The NHS has tried to remain non-partisan in all of this, but has said, out of the EU, we don't think the NHS is going to be as strong. It certainly isn't going to be as protected, ironically enough. People bang on about, if we stay in Europe, then TTIP will come and the NHS will be sold. Actually, TTIP has provision for protecting national health services. None of the EU seems to actually want TTIP to touch health services. And quite a bit of the EU doesn't want TTIP in the first place. The French are almost certainly going to veto it. So when we talk about TTIP's going to kill the NHS, we need to remember that it's certain people such as Boris Johnson who are very in favour of TTIP and have also been on record as in favour of making the NHS a lot less free at point of use, shall we say. Again, this doesn't really talk about the NHS, but I'm going to because it raises it as sort of a dog whistle, really, a little. Oh my God, the EU, NHS. Yeah, so we're not voting to kick anyone out of the UK. We have no evidence that a Leave vote will not result in people being deported. Currently, legal migrants being deported. We have no evidence to show that the 2 million or so British people living and working in the EU, mainland EU, will not be forced to return here. We do not know. Well, you can say, oh, of course they wouldn't do that, but we don't know they would do that. We don't know they would or wouldn't. It's a complete unknown. So we don't know whether we would deport or not EU nationals from this country. We have no idea how those negotiations are going to go. But not voting to kick anyone out or block access to anyone. Now, is this genuine or is this disingenuous? Because there's a lot of talk about we must control the borders, which we already do. There's a lot of talk about we need to reduce numbers. We must have quotas or points or this or that, which, again, this comes up again later, I think, so I'll try not to labour it so much here. But a lot of people, rightly or wrongly, seem to be voting on the single issue of immigration. The EU has good and bad points. Everybody may see something different as good, or they may have different opinions on the bad. But it's far more than just immigration or just the economy or just regulations and who makes them or just European courts. It's so many things, yet all we seem to have focused on has been immigration recently. So it may come as a huge surprise that this person who's campaigning for Leave is saying, basically, we're not going to kick anyone out or stop anyone coming in. And given what they say later, I think that gives the lie to this point anyway. But it's important to note that it doesn't tally with the mainstream Leave message in this respect. And there is this mixed message. We're not blocking anybody, but we're not going to stop the valuable people. So that doesn't mean that actually we only want the valuable people, so we are going to stop blocking people. But as I say, this point is pretty much duplicated. So I've already gone over the time I wanted to on this. Let's move on to the next.